morning once again, HU1MB. Okay, so this will be our first topic sa ating module number 1 for the third quarter. It has a title of Community, Importance, Definition, Elements, and Approaches. Okay, so before we start with the discussion, let us first know the objective, okay, that we're going to have in the end of this module. So para sa objective number 1 is you are expected to explain the importance of studying the community and its dynamic in relation to the applied social science. Okay? You are also expected to recognize the diversities in communities and analyze community structures and processes. So as an overview, it is said here that community situations vary, meaning to say that every community has its capacity or capability of changing from time to time. Okay? Each community has its own context and realities, and those interested in working with the community must first have a clear picture and a good grasp of entity they are trying to address. It calls young people to be aware of community dynamics, analyze social realities, and get engaged. So in order for you to see, judge, and act is one way to understand the community and how to engage to it. Okay? So sabi dito, enable for you to see is you need to get to know and understand the community first. Okay? Para makita mo yung ano ba yung kung anong meron doon sa community, kung saan ka nabibilang. Okay? Is you have to see or you have to understand the community. Okay? What is the prerequisite for the judgment and action? And another one is for you to be able to judge is you have to analyze and assess the community based on one's knowledge. Then right after that, for you to act is to push the community action. Okay? So, para ito sa mga once an individual or an organization na gustong mag-conduct ng community service, bago sila mag-act is kailangan alam muna nila kung anong meron sa community na yun. Okay? Kailangan bago nila i-conduct yung kanilang community service is dapat naiintindihan muna nila kung anong meron sa community, at the same time yung prerequisite, okay, for the judgment and action when it comes on conducting their activities, okay, to that area. Okay? So, bakit daw kailangan nating pag-aralan ang community? Okay? And why is it important or how is it important to study the community? So, for lesson 101, the definition and importance of studying community. Kapag narinig natin yung salitang community, it comes up with different diversity, okay, or different words like together, social, belonging, society, people, relationship, belonging. Those are the words that could pertain to a community. Okay? Yun daw yung mga words na unang-unang naiisip ng tao kapag tinanong sila, ano yung community? Anong unang yung naiisip when you hear the word community? Okay? So, sabi dito, there are many ways in order for you to understand and appreciate a community. But there is no substitute to immersing and living with that community. So, social development workers or social workers, social action people, and community organizers cannot escape what we call in Tagalog as paglubog o pagbabad. Okay? It is because understanding the community entails understanding in the several ways. Diba? It's either or not community is defined geographically, it is still has a geographic context as setting that is exist in. Okay? So para mas maintindihan natin ano nga ba yung community at bakit nga ba mahalaga na inaaral natin kung anong meron sa kanya. Alamin natin yung iba't ibang aspect. Okay? Let us know the different aspect in order for us to understand the community. Okay? So, the first one is the physical aspect. Yan. So, pag sinabi nating physical aspect, every community has a physical presence or sort rather. Even if only one building, most have a geographic area or areas. They are either defined by or attached to. So, it is important to know the community size and the look and feel of its building. Ang tawag natin doon is topography. Okay? So, sabi dito, if the community is one defined by its population, then its physical properties are also defined by the population. So, yun yung tinitingnan eh. When it comes on the physical attribute or physical aspect of the community, ang tinitingnan na dito is kung anong meron. How does a community look like? 'Di ba? Gaano kadami yung nakatira dito? 'Di ba? So, gaano karami yung pamilya na nakatira sa isang community? Okay? That is why mayroong census eh. 'Di ba? Naranasan niyo na bang may pumunta sa inyong census? Shika, sa inyo ba may nagpunta na census? How about you, Rika Shane? May pumunta na ba sa inyo na census?
Apo, ma'am.
Anong ginagawa ng census kapag ka na nagpunta sa inyo? Anong mga tinatanong? Okay, so usually, 'di ba, pagka na may mga nagpupuntang census sa bahay-bahay, is tinatanong nila kung ilan yung nakatira dun sa bahay na 'yon. 'Di ba? Ilan ang anak? 'Di ba? Ilan yung miyembro ng pamilya? 'Di ba? Siyempre, hindi nila tatanungin kung ilan ang asawa. 'Di ba? Patay ka. Okay. So, sabi dito, the characteristic of those places can tell you a great deal about people who make up the community. Okay? So, their self-image, many of their attitudes, and their aspirations are often reflected in places where they choose or are forced by circumstances or discrimination to live, work, gather, and play. Okay? So, yun yung physical attribute or physical aspect ng community. Now, let us know the second aspect, which is the patterns of settlement, commerce, and industry. Okay? So, sa patterns of settlement, commerce, and industry, it is where are those physical spaces we have been discussing. Okay? It is because communities rebuild their character by where and how they create living and working spaces. Okay? How does the people in that community settle? 'Di ba? Ano-ano yung mga businesses na meron dun sa area na yon? Ano yung trabaho ng mga tao? Okay? And where there are true slums, standard housing in areas with few or no services that are only options for low-income people. Yun yung minsan tinitingnan eh. 'Di ba? Na gaano ba kahirap yung pamumuhay ng mga tao sa community? Okay? Ano ba yung mga trabaho nila? Magkano ba yung kinikita nila per day? 'Di ba? So, the larger community places on those residents seems clear. It is because of yung sinasabi dito na substandard housing in areas with few or no services that are only options for low income people. Kaya 'di ba? Isa sa mga halimbawa dito is yung yung mga housing. 'Di ba? Meron akong kakilala na nag-apply sila sa housing. Okay? And sabi sa kanila, according to yung pinag-anuhan nila, titira sila ng 3 taon doon sa housing, doon sa paglilipatan nila. And then right after 3 years, saka lang sila maghuhulog. 'di ba? So, minsan the government has a program, ano? May program na ipinapatupad kung saan yung mga family with low income is pwede pa ring magkaroon ng kanilang sariling bahay with a little amount of budget, 'di ba? Na pwede nilang bayaran. Okay? So, dito naman tayo sa number 3, the demographics. Okay? So, demographic is a vital to understand who makes a community. Because lagi itong nakabase sa age, sa gender, sa race, and ethnicity. Of course, sa marital status, education, number of people in household, the first language, these and other statistics make up that the demographic profile of the population. So, yun yung mga pinagbabasihan base sa demographic. Okay? Kumbaga, para mas maintindihan mo ang isang community, you have to know the demographic of that area. 'Di ba? Kung ilan yung mga ganitong edad, 'di ba? Ilan na yung mga matatanda, 'di ba? Ilan ang may asawa, 'di ba? Kagaya ng binanggit ni Ma'am kanina, no, sa census, 'di ba? Tinatanong nilang lahat 'yon, no? Para malaman nila kung ilan yung nakatira sa ganitong area, ilan ang senior citizen, 'di ba? So, when you put them together, it gives you a clear picture of community residents or 'di ba? Pag pinagsama-sama mo daw lahat ng 'yan, yung nakabase sa demographic. Okay? So, dito naman tayo sa number 4 aspect of community, which is the history. Okay? So, guys, sa history, sabi dito, the longer or the long-term history of the community can tell you about the community traditions, what the community is or has been proud of, and what residents would prefer not to talk about. 'Di ba? So, kailangan pala, based from the aspect of history ng isang community, kailangan alamin mo rin yung mga traditions nila, 'di ba? Yung anong klase ng community meron sila, 'di ba? Ano yung mga preferred na pinag-uusapan ng madalas na pinag-uusapan ng mga nakatira doon sa community na yon. And of course, the different information about the conflicts and factions about that community. Okay? So, it is very important, it is because you have to know the issues, past and current relationship among the people or the key people and groups. Okay? Many of the factors that can trip up any effort before it start if you don't know about to address them. 'Di ba? Kaya nga yung mga nagko-community service, nag-aano muna sila, nag-survey muna sila sa isang area. 'Di ba? Nagtatanong-tanong muna sila sa mga kakilala nila, 'di ba? Kung anong meron doon sa area na gusto nilang pagkandakan ng community service. Kasi para alam nila kung ano yung pwede nilang i-provide at hindi. 'Di ba? Para alam nila yung pwede nilang ibigay at hindi. 'Di ba? So, another factor is community leaders, formal and informal. Of course, 'di ba? Being one of the leader or being one of the individual who wanted to come up with community service, kailangan alam mo din o makilala mo din yung community leaders, either formal or informal. Pag sinabi nating formal, ito yung ikaw mismo yung pupunta doon at magkikipagkilala doon sa leader, community leader, let's say barangay captain, 'di ba? Kagawad, 'di ba? Sa informal naman, magtatanong-tanong ka. Kung merong kang kakilala na nakakatira doon sa community na yon, doon ka magka-come up ng idea, sa kanya ka hihingi ng idea. Okay? So, sabi kasi dito, some community leaders are elected or appointed. Either sila ay mayor, city councilor, directors of public works, okay? And others are considered leaders because of their activities or their position in the community. Okay? So, yan. Still others are recognized as leaders because they are trusted for their proven integrity, courage, or for others and good of the community. Ayan. So, dito naman tayo sa aspect of community culture, formal and informal. So, within the community culture, this covers the spoken and unspoken rules and tradition by which the community lives. Okay? So, it can include everything from community events and slogan, the blessing of the fleet, or what we call artichoke, capital of the word, to norms of behavior, turning a blind eye to alcohol abuse or domestic violence, to patterns of discrimination and exercise of power. Okay? So sabi dito, understanding the culture and how it develop can, di ba? Can be crucial. Most especially if that is what you are attempting to change. Okay? Then another aspect of communities, existing groups. Okay? Most communities have an array of groups and organization of different kinds, service and clubs. Okay? So ay kagaya na lamang ng Lions, Rotary Club, 'di ba? May mga community kasi na merong mga ganong klase ng ah anong tawag dito, organization. Okay? Either by faith, by group, youth organization, 'di ba? Sports team, okay, club. Yan. Groups form around the shared interest and the boards of community-wide organization as well as group devoted to self-help, advocacy, and activism. So, dapat pala yun, 'di ba? According to the survey, dapat inaalam nyo rin yun. Okay? Then, another aspect of community is the existing institution. Okay? So, dapat alam mo din that every community has institution that are very important to it. Okay? It has a credibility to the residents. Kagaya na lamang ng colleges rather, universities, libraries, religious institution, hospital, all of these and many others that can occupy the important places in the community. Okay. Next, another aspect of community is economics. Yan. So the economics is sabi dito, you are or who are the major employers in the community. 'Di ba? Dapat alam mo din 'yan. What if any business or industry in the community base? Okay? What if rather any business or industry in the community base, and who, if anyone, exercise economic power? How is it well distributed? How you characterize the community as poor, working, class, middle, or affluent? Okay? Ano yung mga prospects ng population, either by general or by concern? Diba? Ano yung kinalaman nito sa'yo? Okay? So, another one is the government and politics. Okay? Pagdating sa government and politics, sabi dito, understanding the culture of community government is obviously important. Some communities may have strong mayors and weak city councils. Meron namang kabaligtaran. 'Di ba? But still, other communities have many or have no mayor at all, but only have a town manager. 'Di ba? Kagaya na lang ng ITAS. 'Di ba? The community of the ITAS, wala silang town mayor, pero meron silang community leaders. Okay? Wala silang mga mayor, wala silang mga councilor, wala silang ganun. But they have community leaders. Okay? So, sabi dito, whatever the government structure is, where does a politics or political power lie? Understanding whether the real power can be difference between successful effort and vain one. Okay? Next, another aspect of community. Yan. Social structure. Diba? So, sabi dito, many aspects of social structure are integrated into other areas and relationship, politics, economics, but there are also questions of how people in the community relate to one another on a daily basis. No? How problems are or aren't resolved, and who socializes or does business with whom, or etc. So, dapat alam mo din yan. What is the social structure of this business or community? Okay? This area also includes perceptions and symbolizes or symbols of status and respect. Then, whether status carries entitled or responsibility, or even both. Okay? Then, another aspect of community is the attitudes and values ng mga nakatira sa isang community. Okay? Napakahalaga nito. So again, much of this area may be covered by investigation into others, particularly the culture of the individuals or the families that is living in that community. Okay? So, kailangan alam mo what does the community care about. Diba? What does it ignore? Diba? What are residents' assumptions about the proper way to behave, to dress, to do business, or even to treat others. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga yung mga kinalaman nito, no, sa mga tao na nakatira doon sa isang community? Ano yung mga may pakialam sila? Ano yung mga wala, 'di ba? What does they anong tawag dito? What are their reactions regarding kung paano manamit ang tao, 'di ba? Ano yung mga karaniwan na ginagawa nila in order to treat others, 'di ba? What are their businesses, 'di ba? So, sabi dito, you have to see what is the different opinions, ano? You also have to see what are the different opinions and backgrounds of the people who are living in that community. Okay? So, once na na-explore mo na daw yung relevant areas ng isang community, you have the information that is being created. Ano yung pinakang description mo sa community. Okay, ang tawag natin doon is community assessment. Once you assess the community based on its aspect, you will have a result. Whatever actions you take to bring about change. 'Di ba? So, yun yung mga kailangan mong yun yung mga kailangan mong gawin, okay? You have to have a community assessment. Okay? So, what are the things that we can gain from understanding the community dynamics? Ano daw yung mga pwede nating mag-gain once na naintindihan natin yung different aspects and dynamics ng isang community? Number one nito, guys, is provides benchmarking data. Yan. Pag sinabi nating benchmarking data, bago daw tayo mag-undertake ng kahit anong community actions, either community services, is or any development intervention, kagaya na lang ng community project, is napaka-importante na i-establish muna natin yung data. Okay? Base sa analysis. Okay? Or base sa aspeto, no, na nabanggit natin kanina. It is because the data illustrate the preliminary or image of community situations or briefer. Yan. And then number two, it provides preliminary project planning information. Okay? So, it is necessary to secure community information and feedback needed for conceptualize of project design or plan. And understanding community dynamic is the key to a sound and relevant community development plan. Okay? Then, provides an idea of the community's strengths and challenges. Number 3 yan. So, an in-depth understanding of community-based project development team to identify the strength and possible loopholes of the project design. It will make the design more visible, okay, and realistic. Okay? Then, it provides an opportunity to understand the community's dominant rules and norms. The success or failure of a community project often is strongly affected by prevailing rules and norms in the community. Diba? A successful community development project requires a consideration and respect of those rules and norms. Okay? Then, another one, it provides an occasion to gauge the attitude and behavior of the community. Kasi kailangan maintindihan mo yung mga tao, no? Yung attitude and behavior ng mga tao doon sa komunidad na yun. Okay? Once you conduct a project development sa isang area is you have to understand the attitude and behavior of the community members. 'Di ba? Alam niyo naranasan namin 'yan kasi ang yung organization na itinayo namin, every year nagkakanda kami ng community service. Okay? So, minsan sa orphanage kami, minsan sa mga remote areas. So, one time, this is just last year, December 28, ano. So, one time, pumunta kami sa isang remote areas dito sa Tanay. Bundok yun talaga, no? And, nagdala kami ng mga, bago pa yon nag-ano kami, nag-survey muna kami kasi meron akong estudyante na nakatira sa area na yun. And nagtanong ako sa kanya, ano yung mga wala, ano yung mga meron, ano yung mga kailangan ng mga tao, kanino kami pwedeng makipag-coordinate, 'di ba? So, lahat naman ng information is na ano namin, nakuha namin. May na-miss lang kaming isa. Alam niyo kung ano 'yon? The attitudes and behaviors ng mga tao dun sa community. 'Di ba? Ano yung mga gusto nila tsaka hindi nila gusto, ganun. So, kumbaga, dahil excited kami to do the activity, to do the community service, we come up with a campaign, no? Our organization had our campaign for about 3 weeks, no? Nagkalap kami ng mga damit, sapatos, ng mga relief, tapos ng bigas, 'di ba? Ng mga delata, yan, para maipamigay doon, 'di ba? So, nung nandun na kami sa area, napansin namin na parang yun atang mga ipapamigay, una pa lang, no? Yung mga ipapamigay ata namin din yung mga taong yun. Pagsakay pa lang nga namin dun sa jeep, punong-puno na yung jeep ng mga pinamili mula sa bayan. So, we have come up with an idea na aside from giving relief good dun sa area is magkaroon din ng mga ng entertainment para sa mga bata. Okay? Since ang mga members namin ay mga clown, magician, 'di ba, party entertainer. So, yun yung naging ano namin. So, the latter part of it, nangyari na nga siya. Pagkatapos naming mamigay, no, ng mga relief goods, ng mga damit, napansin namin na may ilan sa mga damit na itinapon nila. Hindi pala nila yun gusto, 'di ba? So, naisip namin nung time na yun, right after ng community service namin pag-uwi namin dito sa bayan, naisip namin na na-miss namin yung information ng dominancy or yung kakayanan ng mga tao. And also, yung gaya nga nung nabanggit ko kanina, yung behavior and attitude ng mga tao dun sa area. 'Di ba? Kaya kumbaga parang from our observation and from our experience is talagang dapat bago pala talaga mag-conduct ng community service sa isang area is kailangan alamin mo muna ng gusto yung iba't ibang aspeto na meron ito. Okay? Then, okay, let us go back with the gains from understanding community dynamics. Okay? Yung nasa huli, it provides a way, 'di ba, for a more directed and well-informed dialogue with the community. Ayan. Then, sumunod naman, it makes networking and partnership building more favorable. 'Di ba? Once you understand and see what is in that community, is lalawak yung network mo, dadami yung mga kakilala mo, 'di ba? Yung partnership mo with other people will be more favorable. And by having an idea of different advocacy and interest of group in a community, kumbaga, pwede kang humingi ng tulong din sa ibang tao. Or I mean, pwedeng may mga ibang institution na tumulong sa'yo. Kagaya na lang ng mga local networks or associations. 'Di ba? Then, another one, it gets the project implementation less complicated. Paano nasabing magiging less complicated? It is because maraming pwedeng tumulong sa'yo. 'Di ba? Maraming pwedeng anong tawag dito, magbigay ng mga ng mga goods. Maraming pwedeng sumama. So hindi na magiging mahirap, 'di ba? Para sa grupo mo yung mag-conduct ng ganong klase ng activity. Okay? Okay. So dito na tayo sa community. Okay? So sabi dito, community is a group of associated nations that is sharing common interests or a common heritage. Okay? And in a community, it integrates the notion of social justice, human diversity, values, and ethics, and applies the idea of community building, community renewal, community assets, strengths, ethic, and civil society, and also a social capital. Okay? So, a holistic view recognizes the interconnectivity of people and place based on the strategies and knowledge of the economic, environmental, and social issues that are interdependent or interdependent. Okay? So, let us know the different elements of the community. Kanina, pinag-aralan natin yung iba't ibang aspect na meron sa isang community. Ngayon naman, we will discuss about the different elements of a community based on its nature and power structure. Okay? So, according to the information, the dynamics of a community are determined by nature and structure and how it reacts with external or internal forces. It is thus important to recognize the characteristics and features of community in order to understand why it acts and reacts in a certain way. So here are the different nature of community. Number one, a community is a sociological construct. 'Di ba? Paano nasabing sociological construct ang isang community? It is because the concept of community is not only a construct or model, but also a sociological construct or a set of interaction of human behaviors that have meaning and expectations between its members. 'Di ba? So lahat ng tao na nakatira sa isang komunidad, may iba't ibang attitude and behaviors 'yan. 'Di ba? But eventually, these people has the capacity or capability to interact with one another. Okay? And there is not just an action but also an action based on shared expectation, values, beliefs, and meanings between each individual. Okay? Next, number two, nature of a community is a community that has a passive boundaries. Yan. So when a community is little village separated by few kilometers from other villages in rural area, its boundaries appear at first to be very simple. Di ba? So the human interaction present may be consisting only of relations among the residents living inside the village, and the boundary of community is no longer that precise. So, merong mga klase ng community na kapag ka malalayo, merong mga klase ng community na kapag ka malalayo yung pagitan nila or boundary nila sa ibang area, is they live in a simple life. They live in a simple interaction. Okay? So, the human interaction present may be consisting only the relations among the residents living inside that village. Okay? Then number three, a community can exist within a larger community. Diba? So, merong mga klase ng community na pwedeng nag-exist siya sa mas malaki pang community, kagaya na lamang ng mga bayan-bayan. Okay? And there may be communities within larger communities, which is including the districts, the region, kagaya ng binanggit ko kanina, no? The ethnic, the groups, the nations, and other boundaries. There may be marriages and other interactions that link the villages of a nation together. Okay? Then, number 4, nature of community. A community may move. There are some community that can be moved from one places to another. It is because when technology is not based on a local horticulture, the community residents may be physically mobile. Okay? Pag sinabi nating physically mobile, ibig sabihin hindi sila kumbaga kapag yung technology is hindi sila naka-base doon. Sometimes nagiging physically mobile. They may be nomadic herders that is walking long distance with their cattle, or there may be mobile fishing groups who move from time to time to where the fish are available. 'Di ba? Perfect example nitong community that can be moved is yung mga naglalakbay from one places to another. 'Di ba? Yung mga grupo ng mga tao na naglalakbay from one places to another. Kung saan maraming pagkain, doon sila. 'Di ba? Kung saan may maraming isda, doon sila. It is because they may be hunters who have to follow the game. Okay? So sabi dito, a community that can be considered like an organism because it can function even if people come and go. Okay? So, further pointed out that the community is a super organic organism or system that is based on a Bartel in year 2010. Okay? So, lagi nating titingnan that some communities made up of thoughts, outlook, and conduct of individual human beings that is full of divisions and conflicts brought about difference in either religion, ethnicity, access to resources, class, education, the level, okay, the income level, ownership of properties, language, personality, opportunities, and a lot more. Marami kasi yan eh. 'Di ba? Maraming aspect yan. Marami yan pwedeng tingnan, bago natin mas maintindihan pa yung komunidad o yung isang komunidad. Okay? So, these are the different structures of the community. Okay? So, the community power structure is about the distribution of power at a local community level. Ang tawag natin doon ay sociology guide. Okay? So, alamin natin yung iba't ibang structure ng community based on local description, or community power. Halimbawa na lamang yung connection. 'Di ba? Yung connection it is the capacity to create the linkage and development or develop a helpful relationship with powerful individual, family, and organization. It is because of the yung capability, okay, ng mga tao doon sa isang area. Next, yung power number. Pag sinabi nating power number, the base that is back up and support of the people in the community. Gaano ba karami yung nakatira sa isang komunidad? 'Di ba? Minsan yun yung tinitingnan. Sumunod is the personal traits and expertise. So the capacity to foster respect and loyalty based on charm, talents, and skills. Next is the legitimate power. Okay? So the leadership titled or higher organizational or institutional position. Next is the information or the ability to keep or share the information. Then, the coercion. Okay? The coercion is the influence through the manipulation and coercion. So, yun yung mga community leaders. Okay? So, for the community social change to happen, it is necessary to understand the power actions na tinatawag. Okay? Or the power actors. As discussed above, the power actors have power mainly because of their influence, and community organizers and development workers pay closely attention to the power actors and the key people in the community power, okay, structures because of their significant roles in social change. So, let us see the different dimensions naman ng community. Okay? So, sabi dito, a community is a complex system because of the different dimensions. This characteristic of a community may be attributed to the combination of communities, human resource, natural resource, culture, structure, and other factors. Nakabase pa rin yan sa libro na Bartel noong year 2010. Actually, that is a survey. Okay? And the Bartel also identified the 6 community dimensions. These are technological, economic, tatandaan niyo po what are the 6 community dimensions? Technological, economic, political, institutional, aesthetic value, and belief conceptual. Okay? So, alamin natin what are the meaning of this community alamin natin yung meaning nitong community dimensions na to. Unahin natin yung technological. Okay? So, pag sinabi nating technological, it is the interface between the humanity and nature. Okay? This dimension is not comprised of physical tools themselves, but of course, to learn new ideas and behavior that allow humans to invent, use, and teach others about these tools. Yun yung technological. Yung mga natututunan ng mga tao doon sa isang remote areas. Next is the economic. Okay? So, sa economic, sabi dito, this dimension is not about physical items, but like cash, but about the ideas and behavior that give value to cash. 'Di ba? Ano-ano ba yung mga businesses na meron sa isang community? 'Di ba? Paano nabubuhay yung mga tao doon sa community? 'Di ba? Ano yung trabaho nila? 'Di ba? Ano yung mga pinagkakakitaan nila? 'Di ba? Nagsasaka ba? Yung mga nakatira doon sa komunidad na yun, nagtatanim ba sila? 'Di ba? Or nagtatrabaho lang, 'di ba? Pumapasok sa mga kumpanya. May negosyo ba silang sarili? Yun yung tinitingnan yung ekonomiya ng isang community. Next is the political. Okay? So dito naman pumapasok yung tinatawag nating allocating powers. Yung influence at saka influence and in decision making influence. Dito pumapasok yung local governments ng isang community, wherein merong mayor, may councilor, 'di ba? May barangay captain, may kagawad, may community leaders. Yan. Then sumunod is the institutional. These are the ways that people act, react, and interact with one another. 'Di ba? How do they interact with the expectation of each other? Then, it also includes the marriage or friendship, the roles like mother or police officer, status or class, and other patterns of human behavior. Then, next is the aesthetic values pala. Pag sinabi nating aesthetic values, this refers to the structure of ideas. And sometimes, paradoxical. Okay? So, pag sinabi natin paradoxical, minsan nasa isip, yung iniisip ng tao. 'Di ba? So, paano ba mag-isip ang mga tao sa komunidad na yan? What are their behaviors? 'Di ba? What are their personal identity? What are their standards? 'Di ba? Yun yung tinitingnan sa aesthetic values. Okay? Then, the last one is the beliefs or conceptual. Okay? So, sa beliefs and conceptual, this is another structure of ideas wherein it also sometimes contradictory that people have about the nature of universe, the world around them, their role in it, and the nature of time, matter, and behavior. Ano yung mga paniniwala ng mga tao sa isang komunidad? Kasi 'di ba sa isang community, merong iba't ibang paniniwala ang mga tao. Meron din silang iba't ibang religious beliefs. 'Di ba? Iba't ibang religion. Merong Katoliko, may iglesia, may Mormons, 'di ba? But anong tawag dito? these people or these individuals interact with one another even if magkakaiba sila ng paniniwala. Diba? So, yun yung tinitingnan the beliefs and conceptual. So, sabi dito, understanding the different dimensions of community is a prerequisite to the process of community. Okay? Or tinatawag natin community mapping and analysis. Okay? So, it is only when you have a full grasp of economic, political, social, culture, and ecological, physical dimensions of the community that may be able to build the community puzzle. It is thus important to develop not just the skill of assessing or analyzing observable data, but also the skill of sensing and intuiting because of these things. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga nasasabi ng mga tao? Kailangan alam mo yun 'di ba? Kailangan naiintindihan mo siya. So, ang tawag natin doon is paglubog or community immersion. Okay? Wherein the people around that community interact with one another despite of their different beliefs and behaviors. Diba? So, dito na tayo sa 4 approaches in applying the term community. Okay? So, this is the last, sa lesson natin. Applying the 4 approaches when it comes on the term of community. So, enable for you to understand the concept of community, there are 4 approaches in applying the said term that have been identified by Delante in 2003. Okay? So, the identification of the 4 approaches indicates the perspective or communities evolve depending on the realities and requirements of the environment. So, alamin natin yung 4 approaches na yan. Number 1 is the first group or the sociologists and the geographers. These sociologists and geographers are the concern about the social and spatial formation of social organizations into small groups, such as neighborhoods, small towns, or other spatially bounded localities. Sumunod naman yung number 2, yung second group. Yung second group naman, they are the working in culture studies and anthropology. They are the one who applies the term of ideas and belongings and differences about issues such as the identity of the people who is living in the community. Okay? Then number 3, the third group, sila naman yung mga working in social movements or the community workers. Okay? So, they are considered as a community as a form of political mobilization that is inspired by radical democracy that prompts communities of action to oppose social injustice. And then the last one is the fourth group. Okay? Sila naman yung mga concern about the influence of globalization. Okay? So, they are the one who consider the development of community based on the rise of global society and draws on processes such as transnational mobility and the development such as global communications and internet in order to explain the globalizations or globalism. Okay? So, this assertion signifies that the term community has evolved and expanded. So, the community is not just limited to a congregation of people in a living geographically bounded location, but also that is extended, they are extended to social spaces. Okay? So, that is our lesson, to about the introduction, sa community, importance, definition, elements, and approaches. Okay? So,